everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Hi, hello, welcome to a little writing update. It has been a very long time since I've done one of these, so I figured let's put all of the updates for what I'm currently working on in my author life in one place, because I have mentioned so many different things in different vlogs and just everywhere. I figured I should probably consolidate them all into one nice video for you guys. If you didn't know, I am a Canadian indie author, fantasy specifically. I have 2 books out in the world. I have A Second Story and A Little Luck. They are part of a companion series, so you can read them in order or out of order or one or the other, doesn't matter. I'll leave it up to you. They are set in the same town of Arrowmount, a little seaside town in a high fantasy world that is very queer normative and lovely and bright and wonderful and fantasy. I've had readers describe them kind of as like Hallmark movies, but wrapped in fantasy, something like that. So what am I currently working on? Well, I have in my noggin currently 3 to 4 projects in my brain, which is not conducive to actually getting anything done. First up, the most important thing though is Arrowmount Book 3, which is, these are the Arrowmount books, the series, the Arrowmount books, and the book 3 in this series is the next thing that I am working on that I want to get out in the world. And that one, the title is to be released, but I like to just call it Arrowmount Book 3 or Project Favorite. It's been a long time since I've called it Project Favorite though. So Arrowmount Book 3 is just what we like to call it here on my channel. Arrowmount Book 3 is hopefully going to be coming out early 2025. That is the plan, that is the goal. But I am currently in the process of writing draft 1. It is proving to be such a stickler of a story that just won't come out of me. And my brain desperately is like trying to find other things that it wants to work on, because of course it is. If we have to work on this, what about all these other things? So I'm trying to corral yield noggin and actually get this book out for you guys. I am so excited about the story and I really want to do it justice and like actually get it out and see what the story is like, you know, in its entirety. And so that I can start working on it and getting better and making it better and all that kind of stuff. But the brain is just not functioning in this lovely beginning of the year. But so I originally had deadlines for myself to have a finished draft in November of last year. And then I pushed it to December. And then I pushed it to January. And then I pushed it to the end of February. And here I am telling you that I'm pushing it again to March 30th or whatever the end of March is. I never remember what months have 30 or 31 days. And that one's going to be a more hard deadline for myself because I desperately need this first draft to be done so that I can start making the story better. Because all my brain wants to do right now is edit and make a story better. It doesn't want to like actually come up with a story in a drafting form. It just wants to brainstorm and it also just wants to edit. So I need to actually have something to edit. So I need to actually finish this draft. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start a vlog for that to keep myself accountable, of course, and see if I can finish this freaking draft by the end of March. Because I ended up applying for a couple writing grants that are offered in my province because I'm Canadian. My friend convinced me to do it, which is awesome. She's lovely. She applied to them last year and got them all. And so, you know, I figured why not shoot my shot, you know? So, and because of that, those writing grants required a like timeline kind of a thing. And I wanted to use Arrowmount Book 3 as the like project that I was going to be working on for this grant. And the timeline that I have laid out in those grants, like in the applications, basically is April, May, do draft 2, and then June, July, send out 2 betas and a sensitivity reader, and then August, September, come back and do draft 3 kind of a thing, and then into the fall, get it ready for publication in spring of 2025. And so that is my whole shebang, if you will. That's the timeline that I have in my mind. So to actually do that timeline, I need to have a first draft done, you know? So that is what I'm currently working on. So that book, Arrowmount Book 3, I'm gonna try to pitch it as best I can. I am trying to work on my pitches as well because I have such a nice, concise, short pitch for A Second Story, and I'm better at the one for A Little Luck, but book 3 is gonna be a lot. I need to actually like finish the draft and finish the story so I can give you the full synopsis properly and snappily. But book 3 is going to be following Mary and Zanvi. Mary is, or I should say Marigold and Zanvi. Marigold is a kind of reclusive witch who lives on the outskirts of Arrowmount. She lives in a little cabin out there. She has chronic pain from an old old childhood injury. She has kind of like made her entire life around to like accommodate for that, and she knows how to take care of herself and that kind of thing. She's very independent and all that kind of stuff. And she has a really big garden and a big greenhouse, and she's friends with all the trees and the creatures in the forest. She has a little familiar sort of thing, not actually a familiar in the definition of a familiar, but he is a little wormling, I like to call him. I guess in the fantasy world, you'd also know them as a pseudo-dragon. I call them wormlings in my books. They are little baby dragons that have wings, but they're not really functional to actually fly. They're kind of like lizard-like dragon beings, like this baby here, and his name is Hemlock, which I have Hemlock here, which is, you know what, the best purchase I've ever made in my life. This little jelly cat. Found him in a little kind of indie store in my my city over the summer last year. But Hemlock is her like little guy that she has. He's just a little guy. He's very anxious and he can talk. So he like talks to her all the time. That's who she converses with. So that's kind of her life. She has made her life here. She is a fae being. So she's not a fairy. She's just fae. So if you know D&D lore, there's the different kind of realms. Like there's the material realm, and then there's the shadow realm and the fae realm. The fae realm is where she's from, so she's fae. We don't really know exactly what kind of fae, but she looks mostly human. She just has really tall antlers growing out of her head. And she's got magic and stuff like that, and she's a very magical being. She knows a lot about ley lines. So one of the things about this book is there's going to be a lot of lore about Arrowmount that's discovered, which I'm so excited to really delve into. Lots of lore about the actual part of the realm that they're in. Mary is there. Marigold is sitting in this part of the realm, living in this part of the realm, because she has chosen to be there and to basically mother and cherish and help flourish the magic in Arrowmount because of the ley lines and stuff like that. So she's she's a little hedge witchy, and she's a little reclusive. She doesn't really have any human friends or people friends, I should say, because it's a fantasy world. It's not just humans. She just lives her life with her little creatures. And it also follows Zanvi, as I mentioned. Zanvi is a human shifter. He is a panther shifter. We're just gonna let Locke sit like that because I don't know why he doesn't want to sit the normal way. He's a panther shifter, so he can shift into a panther, a black panther specifically. He is a town guard. He is gorgeous. Gorgeous? I just like to make my love interest just absolutely the most gorgeous people in the entire world. That's just kind of how this is. But yeah, he's a town guard, and he is very intrigued by Mary, because whenever Mary does make the trek into Arrowmount, he's just very intrigued by her. There's a lot of rumors that fly around about her because, of course, there are, you know, local hedge witch kind of a thing. The story is, one day, Zanvi witnesses a magical event that happens around Mary's cabin from his like post out watching the front gates of Arrowmount. He notices like really bright light coming from where her cabin is in the woods. And so he goes and investigates, and he finds her injured, unconscious, and there's a little creature in front of her that he doesn't know what it is. He has no idea. He's never seen anything like this creature before. And so he locks this little creature up in her greenhouse to like just put it somewhere so that it doesn't cause any more mischief or like runs off and gets lost. And he brings Mary back inside her place and basically is like, "You good, girl?" And so in this moment of this whole thing happening, Mary, her chronic pain flares up because she ends up kind of injuring that muscle that was really injured when she was a kid. And so she ends up being just absolutely taken out by this pain, and it's around the time where she's doing a lot of her ritualistic stuff for the magic in Arrowmount. And so because of that, and because Zanvi locked the little creature in her greenhouse, the little creature absolutely decimates the inside of her greenhouse in its panic. Like you think of locking an anxious dog in your laundry room, the kind of horror you come back to, right? So Zanvi ends up basically promising that he's going to help rebuild parts of her greenhouse and parts of like the furniture inside it and whatever. Mary also realizes in this that A lot of her stores that she had in the greenhouse have been completely decimated and are now unusable. So she needs to start redoing the stores, especially for this ritual that she has planned. But she can't do it on her own because of her pain. She can move around, but it is very difficult for her, and because of her chronic pain, it just is so difficult for her to move at the moment. So he promises to help her, and in this bond and in this rebuilding of her greenhouse, she also starts teaching him about her magic and the herbs and all of the witchy stuff that she does, because she also ends up needing help to replenish her stores in that way, and also because she kind of likes having him around. And he is just like a sweet, soft golden retriever man. She's very black cat coated, and they fall in love. And they also start raising this creature. So there's so much going on in this story, so much more than just the relationship, which has been the focus for my previous 2 books. That's kind of like the focus has been like mostly the relationship in these. So the next book is going to be a little bit more heavily focused on the fantasy aspects. There's going to be more going on. It's going to be more of an intricate story, but it's still going to be cozy at its heart. It's still going to have the romance at its heart. I'm very excited about it. But yes, so it's going to have multiple different storylines. It's going to have like the greenhouse storyline, the fixing up and cleaning up of that. And there's also going to be like the learning about witchiness storyline. It's also going to have like Mary realizing that she's, doesn't have to be alone for the rest of her life. She can make friends, and she does, because Zanvi comes along with a group of friends who are all amazing and lovely people, and they welcome Mary in with open arms. And it also follows kind of a Gaston storyline from Beauty and the Beast. One of Zanvi's co-workers who is, I've just been calling him the bitch in my notes because he's awful. But I'm really interested to like kind of up the stakes a little bit with him in relation to the creature that comes into Arrowmount. I don't know. I'm just very excited to explore the story, to explore these new characters. You actually meet Zanvi in A Little Luck. He is the town guard that greets Lottie when she comes in, and he's mentioned by name in one place as well. He's friends with her sister Cece, so you know him from before, and there's little mentions of Mary's cottage or cabin in both of these books. So it's kind of, it's them. I'm very excited to explore their story, and also like the side characters as well. And I'm really excited to explore a story that is a little bit bigger in scope than both A Second Story and A Little Luck have been. A little bit more fantasy leaning. It's got the tropes of, 2 people are raising a creature kind of a thing. It also has the tropes, as I said, black cat and golden retriever. It's gonna be he falls first. It's gonna be great. And it's gonna have the storyline of Gaston in there. I'm so excited about this book, as you can tell, because I can't stop talking about it. But that is what I'm working on next. Arrowmount Book 3. Hopefully coming spring 2025, maybe even a little earlier than that if it's ready. We shall see how like the timeline goes. I will be announcing that at some point this year, and I will also hopefully be having a fun like kind of game for you guys to help guess the title, because I think that should be fun. I kind of want to do like a word game or something. I think that'd be kind of fun to have you guys like try guess the title before I announce it. And also, of course, I'm having my beautiful cover artist from these 2 books and my lovely friend Tess Brennan. She's coming back, and she's going to be doing book 3 as well. Honestly, I've got her on the hook for literally every single book I want to write in this world. So I'm sorry, Tess, but that's just how it is. You've got me for life. Anyways, so yes, that is what book 3 is going to be about, and that is what I'm currently working on at the moment. Other than book 3, I also have, as I've explained in other videos, I have plans for a character that is mentioned in A Second Story. So if you remember, if you've read A Second Story, you have met Sage Tealeaf. Sage Tealeaf is a fiendling. She is a creature much like a tiefling. She's a fiendling. She is a sage green colored horned humanoid creature with a long tail. She's very fun and bright and bubbly, and she craves adventure. And at the end of this, slight spoiler warning, she goes off and starts her own adventure. I've set her up basically at the end of this to have her own story start. I desperately want to dive into that story. So that is going to be what happens next. After book 3 of Arrowmount is released and out in the world, the next things that you guys are going to be getting is probably Sage's entire story. I would really like to have the entire trilogy written at least planned out, written big story-wise before I even release book 1 into the world, so that I have the whole story. I've never written a full series that's like interconnected with the same character story, like a proper series, you know? Like these are standalone books in the same interconnected world, right? It's a little different when you're dealing with an actual storyline that connects from story to story to story. And so Sage's story is what I've been calling it. That's not what it's gonna be called, but like, that's what I've just been calling it on my channel, is going to be proper high fantasy. It's going to be cozy and heartwarming in a way, but it's not a cozy fantasy. I am saying that right now. It's not going to be cozy fantasy because there's going to be a lot more elements of fantasy that I love and used to dabble in a lot before I dove into the cozy fantasy space. And it's going to be kind of me moving and exploring more of the fantasy realm that I really, really want to be as a fantasy author. Not to say that I won't ever come back to the cozy fantasy world, because cozy fantasy is just delightful, you know? And I do have an inkling of an idea for book 4. I just don't actually have plans to put that into fruition. But I do have an idea in my head when I come back to the Arrowmount Books series. So that one's not done at 3 books, but we're taking a little pause, and then we're gonna explore something else. And we're gonna explore Sage's story. And in my head, it's a trilogy. I just actually have to map it properly. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I have been dealing with a brain who just wants to work on other things other than Arrowmount Book 3. So of course, one of those other things is Sage's story. Do I have book 1 basically plotted? Kind of. I have the bones. And when I read Shorefall earlier this month by Robert Jackson Bennett, or last month in January by Robert Jackson Bennett, I opened up a can of worms in my head with one really specific tiny little story element that was introduced in Shorefall. It happened and I was like, hey, what about this? What if this happened in Sage's story in book 2? Which isn't helpful at the moment because I haven't even written book 1, you know? But it did unlock something in my head that not only then led to the idea of what's going to happen at the end of book 2 into book 3, what then is the core of the villain of this entire trilogy, and what her powers are, what her motives are, just what the general direction of the story is. Also, that then led to me being like, I should probably actually plot out book 1 and see kind of like the big moments of the story if I can like get that down. And I did that in one of my breaks when I was teaching. I had a 30-minute break because a student didn't come. So I was like, well, great. I didn't bring a book. So I'm going to just sit here on my phone, pull the Save the Cat story beats, which I haven't used in a couple years now to plot out a story. Just pulled them into my notes app and I just started filling in kind of vibes and brainstorming stuff like that. So I kind of have book 1, the bones are there, which is very exciting. So what I want to do with this one is once I have book 3, Arrowmount Book 3, draft 1 done, I'm going to let it sit for a bit, and then I'm going to change my tack and look at Sage's story as a whole, and I want to try and map out book 1, 2, and 3, the bones at least, so I can get the trajectory of the story down and really like dig into the details of it, because as I said, it's more traditional fantasy than my previous books have been. So I want to really make sure that I'm doing it right. Getting the magic system down, getting the characters down, getting all that kind of stuff. But what I can tell you about Sage's story, even though I shouldn't be pitching it now because it's not even underway, really. Haven't started writing it. So, well, I kind of have. You guys ever have those moments where you're just like, I just have the first line of a story in my head. Let me just, and you are, it's a half hour later and you have like 600 words down. You're like, wow, that is an entire first scene. Okay. Oh boy. I did that with this book last year. I think I have like the opening scene idea. So I decided to actually write it down. But anyway, so what I can tell you about the story is it follows Sage as she goes on a little adventure. It's not that little, it's actually quite big. Basically D&D-esque, where she joins a party which you were introduced to in a second story. You have Xantar, the dwarven fighter. You have Lyra, the barbarian. You have a barbarian paladin. She's gonna be flavored. Barbarian paladin, if you will. You're gonna have Drift, who is an air elemental sorcerer and a rogue, and Ku, who is the like paladin cleric figure. So that's kind of the party that she ends up joining. And Sage herself is a druid. She has very druidic powers. She's not very like good at druidic powers at the beginning of this book, I'm going to flavor her a little bit like Keyleth from Vox Machina at the very, very beginning. You know, she's learning, she's growing, that kind of a thing. She's a very sweet, soft bean. She's also very jester coded from Mighty Nine. Yes, a lot of my shit is flavored off of D&D. I'm sorry. So it's following Sage as she's going off on her own adventure, and it's going to be a little piratey because she goes off on a ship. That's where she sets off at the end of the second story. And I'm thinking it's going to start a couple months after that on the high seas as they're sailing on the Caspasian Sea. And I believe in a second story they mention going to the Caspasian Isles. I would have to double check exactly what they say or like what their job is. They're going to the Caspasian Isles. It's going to be a very like tropical, piratey vibe. When they reach a certain spot in the Caspasian Isles, as they're doing, they hear about a job as they get off the ship, get off at a pier, and they kind of you know, look for word on their next job kind of a thing. Because I think in my head they're going to come off of a big job because they've been on the seas for a few months, so they would have had like stopped and been on a job or whatever. Come to this little seaside village thing. I'm thinking making this village very piratey based, like all these ex-pirates have come together and kind of made this little village. So there's gonna be a lot of like animosity and kind of like loving infighting from all these pirates who have been retired from pirating kind of a thing and like now live here with their families. And it's like there's lots of kids running around. There's generations from these pirating people who used to be on the high seas. It's gonna be kind of that kind of a village, very poppin', very loving, and very, you know, it's gonna be really fun to explore those dynamics of the different pirates. Anyways, so it's gonna be them coming to this town and finding out that there is a creature supposedly hunting down the local livestock that they need to deal with. That it would be great if they could deal with them because whatever they've tried to do, the locals have tried to do, it just hasn't worked. And the creature keeps stealing their livestock. And then the creature starts stealing people. And it kind of goes from there. So it's going to be a little bit like coded, like a little bit of murder mystery kind of a thing. I'm really excited about it. Like D&D campaign level, what you think is a very simple job ends up being something a lot bigger and ends up spanning 3 books worth of content. You know, I'm very excited. The villain in this story is, I think, one of my most favorite villains that I've ever made up. I'm so excited to explore her. It's going to be great. Anyway, so that's what Sage's story is going to be, flavor-wise, I think. Those are the 2 main projects, Arrowmount Book 3 and Sage's story, that are coming up that will be published next for you guys as I rate them and do all that good stuff. I mentioned there were 4 things that are in my head, so those are 2 of them. The other 2, one of them I'm not going to talk about because it is a secret project that I have not worked on all year yet because my brain has been Arrowmount focused, but it's something that if it ever actually becomes something, I'll let you guys know about it, but for now, it's secret. I'm just keeping it for myself. And then this one is something that I didn't plan on working on. So if you have read A Little Luck and you remember me mentioning when I was editing it and like crafting the story that I left the ending open for a possible sequel. So I've kind of been thinking about a companion sequel to that. That would be a standalone high fantasy novel. The other day, I was sitting here at work and it was just one of those things where I don't even know what I was thinking about. Like I already know what I want the cover to look like. And it was one of those things that I just in my brain thought of. And because I know like the one of the main conflicts in this, because I set that up at the end of A Little Luck with the artifact, I was like, okay, so this book is going to be a chase novel, sort of. It's going to be heist novel coded. It's going to be foundry side coded. It's going to be an exploration of the history of Ravar, the entire realm, specifically around the Centurion and some ancient history facts that have been lost and erased purposefully. And it's going to be Lottie and Kier, my beautiful babies from A Little Luck. It's going to be their little story, kind of low-key, saving the realm. I'm very excited about it. I don't know why my brain decided to like explode with information on this one, but I just one day just wrote the opening lines of this. This is one of those moments where I was like, what if the opening line for this, whatever this companion sequel ends up being, which will be a standalone on its own, just like the opening line just exploded in my head and I needed to write it down, and then another 600 words exploded out of me from that opening moment. I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. It just did. And then after that, I was like, what if I just like plot a little bit of it? And I just brainstormed the hell out of the story. So when that book is going to be worked on, I don't know, but it's something that my brain wants to work on. So you will probably be seeing Lottie and Kier again in a standalone companion that will not be part of the Arrowmount books. It'll just be set in the world. As I said, it'll be proper high fantasy, heist, not actually heist, but it'll be like heist book coded with Foundry Side vibes, chase book, trying to keep the artifact away from multiple entities, finding out a lot more about the history of the artifact, what it is, what it does, and what it means for Revar as a whole. Cataclysmic vibes. Anyways, that's another thing that I have in my head right now. Other than that, I don't really have anything that is immediately on the docket for any actual big writing projects, which thank God, because I have enough on my docket as it is. I need my brain to stop coming up with new ideas. And so we have, as a wrap up kind of the projects that I mentioned in this video, Arrowmount Book 3, which is coming out next. That is the next thing you can look for. It is going to be a witchy, soft, cozy fantasy with a creature-raising trope in the heart of it. It's going to be great. I hope you guys are excited about that one. It is also going to be queer. Don't worry about it. I know that talking about the couple, I've used the pronouns she, her, and he, him. So it is very straight coded. It's not. Zanvi is bisexual. Mary is something. I don't know what she is. She's not just cis het straight though, you know? She's just something. We'll figure it out as I write the book. There's a lot of queer side characters as always. Zanvi's friends are polyamorous, which is very exciting. I'm very excited to explore Nova, Jay, and Caius. I'm so excited. How many times have I said that in this video? Don't count because it's too many. Anyway, so yeah, that one is definitely still going to be a queer cozy fantasy. Don't worry about it because I am queer. And you gotta make everything that I write queer, you know? So that is next on the docket. Then after that, Sage's story, which you're probably gonna get 3 books out of me from that. Other than that, I also mentioned A Little Luck #2. I don't have anything that I'm going to call it. A Little Luck #2 Electric Boogaloo. That is in my head, but is not on the horizon at any point in time. I'll let you know if anything comes of that one. Also have a secret project that I'm working on that is not even related to the realm of Revar at all, that I will talk about if it ever becomes something, I don't know. I could also bring back Project Dragon eventually, but I just don't have the brain space for it at the moment. That is my epic fantasy. I think I need to get Arrowmount Books and Sage's story kind of out of my brain and off my plate before I go back into that one and really devote the time to it and make it into something that it deserves to be. Anytime I think about it, my heart just like, because it's my soul book, you know? It is just that. It's going to be amazing and awesome. But other than that, what can I update you on? I have, if you guys know, in the front of my books, recently what I've been doing is I ended up redoing the map of Revar at the beginning of my book, because the map of Revar in a second story is beautiful, wonderful, crisp, and nice to look at. And then when I did A Little Luck, I came into so many issues with the formatting of it and the actual like fit of the maps in the books, and I had to resize this map so many times that the end product, if you look at it, if you have a copy of it, it's just, she's a little blurry, and I don't like the fact that it's blurry and you can't really read many of the place names. I just don't. This map is not a vibe anymore. So I knew I was going to have to redo the map anyways because I needed to crispen up those words and make it clearer, you know? So I decided to do that the other night. And because in Arrowmount Book 3, I have been mentioning places from Mary's childhood and past that aren't on this version of the map. They're on my big original version of the map that I did in Incarnate back in 2021 before I even thought of writing cozy fantasy. They're in Revar, I just don't have them on this version of the map. So I decided to redo the map and make it just slightly bigger, which is very exciting, and include those places and include a few other new things. You'll notice I've added some extra islands, and I've done a little bit of work in the Caspasian Isles as well, because that's in prep work for going into Sage's story, that kind of a thing. Here it is. You can look at it in full, and then I will do a scroll of it as well so you can see it in a little bit more detail. I love doing maps. I will also have to update the Arrowmount town map, which I did between a second story and A Little Luck anyways, because I needed to update a lot of the markers on the Arrowmount town map. I do like an index on the Arrowmount town map, as you can see at the bottom there, with a lot of little numbers throughout, which kind of pertain to like important spots and important moments in the book, like where they go, different places that are mentioned, just so you can see where they are. And because Arrowmount, like it doesn't change, like the actual town does not change between these two books, the places that they go do change. I needed to update that a little bit. So because that is something that I usually do anyways, I'm not worried about updating the Arrowmount town map, but I do need to expand it because Mary's cottage is not on this map. Because Mary's cottage is outside of Arrowmount. It's like up here if you were to make this a full thing. So I'm gonna have so much fun with this. I'm gonna go back through, I'm going to redo this entire map, which is gonna take me forever because there's so many little houses and little buildings and stuff. But I'm gonna expand the Arrowmount town map and include Mary's cottage on it. So that's the map updates. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my writing updates. My 2024 beginning of the year writing updates. What can you expect from me content-wise? There's going to be a vlog for writing the entire draft of Arrowmount Book 3, Draft 1. That is going to be coming because I need the accountability to keep myself on track and on deadline. For some reason, my brain just needs it. So you guys are my accountability buddies. And so you'll get to see the whole drafting experience of that. I think I've mentioned doing an audiobook vlog for A Second Story's audiobook. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I have clips from when I started doing the audiobook back in like October, November last year. I just haven't continued filming anything for it. So it might be an audiobook video of some kind. There will be a video of some kind explaining what the audiobook is like, announcing it, I guess, when it's released or around then. And I'll probably have like the vlog clips in there and I'll talk about the journey to making the audiobooks and stuff like that, because it is, again, another learning experience that I've had to go through in my self-publishing journey. So I am doing the audiobooks for A Second Story and A Little Luck myself, and there will be one for the third one as well, and the next books and whatever, because I have my own mic, I have my own setup, I have the ability, I have the voice. Like listening to me talk, I probably don't have the best voice for it, but in my audiobook narration, I promise you it is good. I've had people tell me that they like listening to me read things, so I'm going to be the person who is audiobook narrating both of these audiobooks, and I do plan on having them out. This one, I hope to have out for the 1-year anniversary of A Second Story in May, so look out for that. I will have more updates on that as we come closer to it as well. I think that's it, my friends. I think that's the update on the writing. Yeah. Working on audiobooks, working on book 3, getting creative juice flowing for everything else. Anyways, that's what's up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you're excited for. If there's anything you really want to see from me, let me know as well. If you want me to do specific videos on anything as well, I'm totally open to doing so. If you want to see specific vlogs or sit down videos for my writing specifically, let me know. I'll catch you in another video very soon. I guess that's how we'll end this. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. Stay kind and keep on writing.